There's 12,526 PSA 10 Luka Doncic cards. Do pop reports matter? Yes and no, and I'll explain why. What's up, YouTube? My name is Josh, and this is Josh Unboxed, and this is episode number 2 of my basketball card talk. And today we're going to talk about pop reports and my logic and reasoning as to why pop reports matter and why they don't matter. And it really all depends on what era you're looking at. So like I said earlier in this video, I just popped up the 2018 Luka Doncic Prism Rookie PSA 10, and right now there's 12,526 of them. But yet the price of the card continues to rise. I've heard a lot of collectors say that this pop report is just too high, and they're throwing caution in the wind, thinking that this card will come crashing down because of such a high pop report. But yet, what we see is the card actually still increasing, and a lot of people wonder why. And here's why I think, using my own logic and reasoning as to why I think this Luka Doncic card still continues to rise in value and hasn't seen a crazy dip, even with a high amount of cards in circulation out there. In order to try to understand this, we have to understand that there are collectors and there are investors. Now, in anything that you invest in, one of the biggest things, like in terms of stocks, is quantity, right? So what would you rather have? 1 share of one stock or 10 shares of one stock? Most people will lean towards the quantity because it yields the highest amount of dollar return. Case in point, let's use an example of a card. Let's say that card is $500 and you own 1 copy of that card. And all of a sudden that card shoots up to $1,000 and you sell it. You make $500 out of it, right? But what if you owned 10 of them and you sold all 10 at a $500 profit? You make $5,000. So what would you rather have, the 500 or the 5,000? As an investor, you want to make that money, that $5,000. As a person who wants to do quick flips, you want to have that money. So what's the fastest way to make that money? And that's by having quantity. And that's part of the reason why I think pop reports don't matter in this era of basketball cards in 2018, 2019, 2020, and the reason being is because how many people have jumped into investing in basketball cards? How many of these people are actual collectors? How many of these people are actually investors and have no attachment to these cards of any sorts? Now, for those that don't have any attachment to these cards, they just see it as liquid assets, moving them back and forth. And guess who they're selling them to? They're selling them to each other, basically. No collector in their right mind is going to pay this much for a Luka Doncic card that has a high pop report of 12,526, right? And the cost of the card is too high. Most collectors are going to be priced out of it. So who ends up buying these cards? Other investors, flippers who see a potential in the card to continue to increase. Yes, you'll have some collectors purchasing it, super collectors or people who are barely joining into the game and starting to collect at this moment in time, who haven't really known anything better from previous times. But for the most part, a lot of investors are buying up the quantities of these cards. And this is what I'm seeing. This is what I feel is happening here. And this is why this card continues to increase despite having a high pop report. So in this sense, pop reports don't matter. But when we start getting into the older cards, when there's less quantity out there, pop reports do matter. We're going to use case in point here, the 1996 Kobe Bryant Topps card, the base card. And this card has recently seen a huge surge, going up to, for a PSA 10, up to around $3,000, $4,000, maybe even more now. I haven't really been keeping up. All I know is that as soon as it hit 3,000, it's just like, wow, crazy. For a Topps base card, you can have a PSA 8 Kobe Bryant Topps Chrome card for the same price as a PSA 10 Kobe Topps base. Now, let me ask you, what would you rather have? So, looking at the pop report here, the Kobe Bryant PSA 10 currently only has 2,213. Imagine that. 2,213. Now, I'm going to explain to you why I think pop reports matter here. This actual number of 2,213 is not the actual number of what's actually going to be out there in the wild or in circulation, because this card came out in 1996, and there's a whole bunch of collectors who already have their card already. So imagine 500 people have this Kobe Bryant card, and they're not letting it go unless the price is right, and which they can sell for a high profit and end up getting one of their grail cards that they want. So what you're actually seeing is probably 18,000 or so, maybe even less. Now imagine all those people who were buying that Luka Doncic card jumping into this Kobe Bryant 1996 Topps base card, trying to go after a PSA 10 that only has a population of 2,000. What do you think will happen to the price? It's the case of supply and demand. There's not a lot of supply and there's a high demand. So this card shoots up in crazy value, which we've seen within a span of like a week. And guess what happens? Once people start getting priced out of the 10 and there's not enough quantity available, where do they move to? To the PSA 9s, which has a pop report of 5,359. And guess what happens to the 9? It shoots up in crazy value. I think that card is reaching over $1,000 now. And guess what else happens? The PSA 8s with a pop report of 2,079 gets the rub from the 10s and the 9s because there's not enough quantity for everyone to grab. Oh, if the PSA 9s are rising, why not buy the PSA 8s? They'll shoot up, but I bet you not a lot of people think about the pop reports in this case. So when you get a lot of new investors, new guys coming into the game that are trying to buy into this Kobe card without any type of knowledge of pop reports and understanding why these cards are going up or that there's not enough to go around, this is what happens. This is exactly what happens when everyone's jumping in onto one card. Everything gets the rub, everything gets the rise. PSA 10, PSA 9, PSA 8s. Now, as a collector, they don't care about having multiple copies of this card. They just want to secure their one copy and then move on to the next card. In this sense, they already have their Kobe Bryant PSA 10 Topps base, and they're not the ones buying these cards. Why own multiple copies of one card when you can have a more diversified collection? That's the mindset of a collector. However, the mindset of an investor is more about, I gotta just get all the cards I can get. I gotta buy them up so I can sell them little by little and sell them off. So investors sell to investors. Some investors sell to collectors depending on the situation. Because who else is buying these cards but other investors or other people trying to make quick flips or trying to anticipate the market and see if this card will rise. You know, pop reports create a sense of scarcity. Consider these cards like numbered cards. So if a Kobe Bryant PSA 8 has 2079, consider it numbered out of 2079. Hey, this is what I see and this is what my thoughts are. And in another video, I'll go ahead and jump into another topic in which we can use these pop reports and the understanding of human nature on how to predict what cards to buy. What cards should we jump into? What plays are there out there? Especially when it comes to these cards in the 90s, 2000s, you know, and as we get into the 80s. We can use human nature, the thought process of people, and pop reports to kind of anticipate and see what plays are next. But like I said, that's for another video. But these are just my thoughts on pop reports. Do they matter? Yes, they matter when it comes to here in the 1990s. But do they matter in 2020 for these particular cards in the Panini era, especially the later ones? Nah, not really. Because in an investor mindset, it's all about quantity. Collectors are going to get their copy. If a collector wants a card, they're going to go get that card, but they're only going to buy one and then they're done. They're not looking to buy multiple copies of a card unless what they're trying to do is fund themselves to purchase another card if they want. So in that case, yes, some collectors will buy multiple copies, but they'll buy it at a point where they feel there's room for growth. But when it comes to these older cards, you know, pop reports matter. Collectors already got their copies. Most collectors already did, except for the new ones that are coming into the hobby. But there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity to make savvy investment decisions based off these pop reports and based off the mindset of us as people and humans and how our thought processes work. So, you know, hopefully I provided some value here. You know, you can agree with me or disagree. These are just my thoughts. These are just my opinions. I hope that you have a better understanding if you're a new person coming into the sports card market on how pop reports work. And for collectors, I hope you guys have come to an understanding as to why certain cards continue to increase even if it has a insanely high pop report, and everyone and their mama is sending these cards to PSA to get graded. I hope you guys understand that as well. So with that being said, my name is Josh. This is Josh Unboxed. This is episode 2 of my basketball card talk, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Later.